In the last class, we saw about the contract. So what is contract? Contract is an agreement between two parties which is enforceable by law. So today we are going to study about the kinds of contract. So contracts may be classified on the basis of their validity, enforceability, formation and performance. Okay. So we'll deal one by one. The first one is classification of contracts on the basis of the enforceability or validity. So first one, valid contract. What is this valid contract? A valid contract is an agreement which satisfies all the essentials of the contract, which is contained in section 10 of the Indian Contract Act 1872 and becomes valid and enforceable by law. Second is voidable contract. So as per section 2, subsection I of the Indian Contract Act 1872, it says an agreement which is enforceable by law at the option of one or more of the parties thereto, but not at the option of the other or others, is a voidable contract. So it is clear that here a voidable contract is a contract which is enforceable by law at the option of both the contracting parties. Third is void contract. So according to section 2, subsection J of the Indian Contract Act 1872, a contract which ceases to be enforceable by law becomes void when it ceases to be enforceable. So it's clear that a void contract is a contract which was valid originally but becomes void subsequently on account of the happening of some subsequent events. Fourth one is void agreement. So section 2 subsection G of the Indian Contract Act 1872, it lays down that an agreement not enforceable by law is said to be void. So according to this definition, a void agreement which is not enforceable by law, for example, an agreement with a minor, lunatic, idiotic. And the last is unenforceable contract. So unenforceable contract is a contract which is valid in itself but cannot be enforced in a court of law because of some technical defects like absence of writing, absence of registration, want of requisite stamp, expiry of time, etc. And the next one is the classification of contracts on the basis of their formation. First one, express contract. As per section 9 of the Indian Contract Act 1872, where the proposal or acceptance of any promise is made in words, spoken or written, the promise is said to be express, and an express promise results in express contract. For example here, if X tells Y over telephone that he offers to sell his car for rupees 30,000 and Y in reply informs X over phone that he accepts the offer, there is an express contract. Second is implied contract. As per section 9 of the Indian Contract Act, where the proposal or acceptance of any promise is made otherwise than words, the promise is said to be implied, and an implied promise results in implied contract. For example, there is an implied contract between A and the operators of a public bus when A get into the public bus. Third is contract of mixed character, where out of two components of an agreement, that is offer and acceptance, one is expressed in words and the other implied from acts and circumstances, there is said to be a contract of mixed character. So for example here, if A offers to buy B scooter for rupees 8,000 over phone and B accepts the offer by sending the scooter itself, there is said to be a contract of mixed character. Fourth one is quasi-contract. A quasi-contract is a contract one which is not intentionally entered into between the parties, but it is created by law. For example here, obligation of the finder of the lost article to find out the true owner and return that particular article. And the third one is classification of contracts on the basis of the performance or execution. So there are three here. Executed contract. An executed contract is one in which both the contracting parties have performed their obligations. That is, if A paints a picture for B and B pays the price for the painting, both the contracting parties have performed their respective obligation, and so their contract is executed contract. Executory contract. Here, an executory contract is one in which both the contracting parties have not yet performed their obligations either in total, that is wholly or partly. For example, A promises to sell goods to B on a specified date and B promises to pay the price to A, that is on a specified date, then the obligations of both the contracting parties remain outstanding. And the third one is partly executed and partly executory. A partly executed and partly executory contract is one in which one of the contracting parties has performed his part of obligation and the other party is still to perform his share of obligation. For example, here, suppose A agrees with B to paint a picture for B for rupees 1000. B has paid the price to A, but A has not yet painted the picture. In this case, the contract is partly executed and partly executory. It is executed to B and executory to A. So this is because B has performed his part of obligation and A has still to perform his part of obligations. So these are the kinds of contract.